What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon
What's up? What's up?
and LeVon Maynard.
And welcome to the show.
What is going on? So welcome to another week of the podcast. Monday, we discussed hackers hacking back, or no, NVIDIA potentially hacking back at hackers. There you go. Because of a data leak that led to some hack back shenanigans and what have you. Definitely a good topic to tune into. Tuesday, we discussed how the Senate passed legislation for timelines on when critical infrastructure companies or companies that provide critical infrastructure, I'm talking backwards today, need to report. So within 72 hours if they have a data breach, and then within 24 if they're victims of ransomware. So it's moving up to the next level. Probably will pass, and it does have implications of how companies will have to report to CISA when they have data breaches and what have you. So pretty good stuff there. Today is our discussion. Thursdays are typically Ask Us SP for people who are trying to break into cyber. I do have some people lined up, but just not quite yet. So that will come to fruition over the next few weeks. Friday is everything else, right? So some of us have seen the Batman. Some of us have watched some TV shows. We got a lot to talk about and make up for 2 weeks. With that being said, going to the discussion. So it's been a crazy couple of weeks, right? Like obviously what's going on in the Ukraine and Europe in general, just all of the sanctions that are being imposed on Russia. So they're losing a lot of ability to move money around, to do business a certain way. They're losing a lot of businesses, are not supplying them with stuff. I saw Nike has joined. I saw that Microsoft has joined and not selling stuff to the Russian government or to Russians in general. I saw SWIFT, so like the banking transaction system is not, they're not allowed to use it. There's a lot happening with the sanctions. It's very fast moving as they restrict stuff. However, the Ukraine has asked for people to come and help them. One of those people being Elon Musk with Starlink. So he reached out to them via Twitter, and I'm sure through official channels as well, right? But we saw it through Twitter and asked for communications. They said, hey, we're being jammed. We need the ability to reach out. And they got a tweet back from Elon saying he was moving the Starlink satellites to give them ability to communicate. So Ukraine's also asked for people to hack back. So he's asked, like the government has asked for hackers to step in on their behalf and DDoS the Russians and what have you. There's a lot of stuff happening that's unprecedented. And I have some concerns because last week we didn't have the episode, but I was going to discuss about the hacking back situation. Like, hey, you're, Jane or Joe Schmo somewhere in the States, and you answered the call to the Ukraine and you hack back at Russia. What are the implications? Are you protected? Things of that nature. I didn't get to ask those questions last week, so I'll include it this week. But this is a private company who, I'm not saying it's the wrong thing. I like it, but the Tony Stark of our multiverse has decided to move satellites in the path of Ukraine to allow them to receive communications, and they are being now jammed by the Russian military. So Elon reached out and said, hey, I pushed the firmware update, basically. I'm paraphrasing. I pushed the firmware update that allowed communications. However, this is going to disrupt Starlink V2 progress because basically he is fighting the good fight on the Ukrainians' behalf. One, that's an advertisement in the midst of war. So that's why I don't feel too comfortable about private companies being involved in war, but that are not sanctioned, right? Because we know there's paramilitary things of that nature. Like you can hire a company to do things on your behalf as a government, but he kind of just stepped in. So how do you guys feel about private companies aiding, so not restricting, because that's part of sanctions, right? So like governments, the UN is sanctioning Russia, they're losing things and companies are pulling their stuff out. I get that. That's a thing that happens, right? You stand in protest by restriction. What about addition? How do you guys feel about that? Like he's giving communications to the Ukrainians. Uh, what implications does this have not only on his company but the United States and the UN? Like how do you feel about this?
So let me jump in here real quick, LeVon. So I understand the point you're making, right? But it's not like I don't want to sit here and say Elon did it on his own, right? Because where did he launch the satellites from? He launched them from a NASA facility controlled by the government at the Kennedy Space Center, right? That's where he launched them off from. So in that sense, it's like he's even though the government is not the U.S. government is not coming out and saying no, we don't like what you're doing. It's like, oh, you want to launch from a NASA facility? Yeah, go ahead. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that happens without the approval of the government, right? Even if they don't come out right and say it, but no, I get the point you're making, right? Like if he had his own launch pad outside of his Tesla factory in California or something like that and was throwing them up, that'd be something different, right? Because yeah, you're like you're alluding to the point of you're not speaking on behalf of the U.S. government, right? Like you're not acting on behalf of the U.S. government. You're not making those decisions for us. You're not doing those things for our
Right.
commander in chief. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you also don't have those protections because of it. Like
Yeah.
that's mainly my concern. It's not that he's doing something like he's not doing something I disagree with. He's doing something that I believe he has no protections for. Like, what happens if they decide to shoot a couple Starlinks out of the low orbit? Because they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Like, does anybody come to his defense if he loses a couple of Starlinks?
Yeah, but he's the richest man in the world. We're second, right? Like him and Bezos go back and forth, right? Depending on how stocks do that day. So
It's
he
Monday,
either
Monday and Tuesday. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah. so he's either the richest today or he's the second richest he's down by a few billion, right?
right.
But at that point, it's a private matter, right? The U.S. government is not going to refund you money for those satellites. You're just going to have to eat that cost. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing: like, even though it's a good cause that he's doing it for, if they start shooting them out of the sky, Elon's probably going to back off and be like, "All right, well, I'm not trying to lose all these satellites we got."
Or he's
there,
gonna
right?
send out the Ultrons
You know,
to defend them. You know what I mean? Like we don't know
that's
what
the
he's got
beginning.
up there.
That's the beginning of the end, right? That's the beginning of the end, right? If he has his Jarvis, try to make a body for his Jarvis, and then that whole
Right.
Ultron thing.
What about you, LeVon? How do you feel about just in general? Like it could even be just people being asked to hack. Like that also makes me nervous because they're not protected.
Yeah, I'm not sure so much about asking to hack, but I think at the very least, the private companies can do whatever they want as far as um, supporting their country and their I guess the war efforts. I guess in a situation like this, it seems like it's kind of obvious, like maybe who's the aggressor and who's the country that's defending himself. Maybe in a different conflict where it's a little bit more questionable, like what side is actually like,
Right.
maybe the transgressor. It's like that could be like a little bit of a question mark, like, hey, you're kind of supporting, you're gonna have a lot of conflict, people that might be might be fighting you as far as like, man, why are you supporting that country when they're known for doing this and that? And I think that, that situation could come up, but right now it seems pretty cut and dry. And obviously all the sanctions with the credit card companies, and I know even like gaming, I know like Microsoft, Sony, and other companies have like restricted their sales of their products. Apple restricted the sales of our products in Russia.
Oh, that's why I
So
forgot. Yeah, Apple was like, nah, no iPhones for you.
right, no iPhones out there, and I know there's been a long list of others. Like you said, I think you said Nike earlier and some other ones, but
Yeah.
it's something that these companies can do what they want as long as as long as they're not like being funded. I guess directed by the government. It's not really like a government intervention. It's not like a NATO, I guess. But even in that respect, I mean, government is supplying arms and weapons and missiles and planes to Ukraine. So they're able to like help them in any facet they feel without being actually boots on the ground, landing missiles on Russia and things like that.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of a free game, and the whole thing with the hackers. I mean, that's a little bit of a toss up, but it seems like if you're hacking for a good cause, it seems like it might be
right.
In this situation, it might be an okay thing. I mean, also we know that Russia's been doing that through Ukraine to try to disrupt their services for their invasion. So it seems kind of logical that I say we, but people on the opposite side would use that on their end to try to disrupt Russia in their aggression right. to invade Ukraine.
So devil's advocate, like this may or may not be a situation that happens in the future. Let's say you are just a guy in his basement, because where hackers live, right? But apparently in your
mom's
hoodie
basement.
with the green scrolling text on your screen.
Matrix.
And you so happen to be able to attack a Russian power grid. Power grid goes down, hospital attached to it goes down, people die in ICU. Are you a war criminal? Do you have any protection? Like after the situation is over and the dust settles and countries make agreements and there's resolutions and people with pens, and then they ask to extradite you out of that basement and send you to the gulag. Like, is that a possibility? I think it is.
It's a possibility. It's possible, not probable, right? So it's one of those things where until something happens to you'd have to go a step past that for the U.S. government. You're saying as a U.S. citizen, right? Is that your
you're just a U.S. citizen who decided like, I'm going to fight on behalf of Ukraine.
So it would have to get worse. I think there would have to be a step past that before the U.S. government steps in, right? So like when it comes to cybersecurity, like it's probably going to be the FBI that investigates that, right? I believe FBI would investigation for that. So if Russia comes back and is like, okay, because of that, now this submarine we have 300 miles off the coast of DC is going to surface and be nuclear ready or whatever it may be, right? And again, we're just throwing this out there. If it causes something like that, that may cause them to take action as a deterrent to other people to not do this again, right? Like you will see that person dragged out of his basement with his beater on with Cheeto stains all over it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, no, I don't think, like I said, possible, not probable. I don't think the government would take action unless it spawns an overreaction or a more severe reaction from the other side. They'll just be like, hey, we're too busy. The FBI is too busy to take that on and investigate that right now, right? We'll get to it when we get to it. And it's one of those things where it'll never get gotten to.
Yeah, we'll never get to it. Yeah. Okay. Like, so yeah, that was my only concern. Like when I saw the active calls, and then, everybody on Twitter believes they're a hacker. Most people don't have, not say they don't have the ability, but they haven't invested the time, right, to actually be proficient enough to do something on a significant level. But you're going to find that one group of people, get them spun up, and they're going to go and aggress, and then it could escalate. That's my concern, because you're not sanctioned. Like nobody stopped out. No G-man knocked on your door. It was like, the government needs you. This may be happening. I doubt it though. Like these are more people who, they're enticed. They're like, this is an opportunity to do something cool on behalf of somebody that is the underdog. So I'm going to do it. But for the two people who were listening, don't be that guy or girl. Just because I just don't believe there's any backing. Like, again, even with Elon, like you said, he has money, so he'd be fine. He might even back off. They can literally be like, all right, jamming on the ground is not working. So we're going to either shoot down one of your Starlinks, or have one of our satellites collide with it, or there's a number of implications, right? In order to stop him doing from what he's doing, which again, I don't fault him for it. I think it's pretty cool that he can just take action like that. But how does his board feel? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we lost 4 Starlinks today. So, you know what I mean? Like, this is a problem, Elon. I need you to back off, or just in the future. Like now, Russia may have a grudge against SpaceX for all time, like because they helped out in the conflict in some way. So there are far-reaching implications that I don't think people are really thinking about, because we have abilities to do things we couldn't do before. Like before, you'd have to travel all the way there, hopefully be proficient in some regard, and then join the fight. You could do it from your the comfort of your own home now. Like we have privileges we've never had before, and that is dangerous because there's no roadmap until you get, like you said, yanked out of the basement in your beater with the Cheeto stains on it, and stand international trial because you took down a children's hospital and people died. So I don't know, but I think it's an interesting dialogue now. We'll see what the implications are in the future, because it's wild. Like you look at TikTok, you got farmers dragging tanks with tractors out of the battle. you got soldiers, young soldiers doing TikToks where they're doing TikToks over music before they go into battle. Like it's a different war. This is something we've never seen before. And it's both serious and surreal at the same time. Like people are dying, people are being injured. There's going to be long implications, but also social media has turned a war into a meme. So it's kind of desensitizing us to conflict in a way. So there's a lot to unpack there, but I don't want to belabor the podcast, right? But definitely great discussion. I appreciate you guys' input. We'll see what happens next week. Probably have something crazy to discuss. Hopefully, nothing too crazy. I hope that this conflict, comes to a resolution fairly soon.
Right.
But, definitely hit up all our social medias. Continue to tune in, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. No Ask Us SP on Thursday, but definitely tune in for Friday where we do the weekly rundown. A lot of good stuff has come out over the past couple of weeks. I definitely want to talk about it. Hit up all of our social medias. Hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. I am on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. And you, LeVon?
Yeah, you can hit me up on the Twitters at LeVon Maynard.
There it is. Stay safe, stay secure.
Take care.